the founder and CEO of the app Fayr, which stands for Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility. Fayr is the best, most intuitive, and crisp modern app for co-parents to stay well documented in preparation for, during, and post-legal proceedings. You know, Fayr takes this very difficult process and really simplifies it. It allows parents to communicate on core issues, to communicate constructively without having to communicate verbally. That often ends up escalating into misunderstandings and disagreements. And so in designing Fayr, from its casual fonts to its soft tones, it was designed to be psychologically conflict diffusing to the user. But most importantly, you'll be able to be the best version of yourself for your kids in every moment.
Are we on? Are we still
We are
muted?
on. No,
Awesome.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, there he is. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to Co-Parenting Simplified, the Fayr way. I am Michael Daniels, and I'm again here joined with my two co-hosts, Gabrielle Hartley and Susan Guthrie. I invite you all to definitely check out the Divorce and Beyond podcast, which Susan hosts, and Gabrielle is the author of the Better Apart book and the Better Apart method. She's a phenomenal coach, and highly recommend her as well. We are today joined by an absolute superstar here, Cuttino Mobley. He is a former NBA player. He had a phenomenal career with the Houston Rockets from 1998 to 2008. Before then, he had actually played for the University of Rhode Island. And Cuttino is just one heck of a phenomenal person. It's so interesting to me that I kind of have to tell this story, Cuttino, because it's just crazy, right? I can remember back in 2004, where I was actually at a Miami Heat game, and I was fortunate enough to get these seats where I was sitting right on the floor in the leather seats next to the players. And I remember seeing Yao Ming's knee was right there, pretty close to mine. And you must have been there. You must have been there at that game. And of course, never thought anything of it. But then many years later, I come in contact with Cuttino because of Fayr, just our lives kind of recrossed. And then the next thing I know, I'm in my car on Thanksgiving, and I'm with my sister from LA, and we're driving down the road, and I said, I put Cuttino on FaceTime with me because I was driving, and next thing you know, my sister's like, "What? I know this guy. He had known my sister for 5 years." So it was really, really funny story. But Cuttino, welcome, and thanks very much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. I'm sorry, my background is not as plush as everybody else's. I just moved into this house.
It's as boring as it gets over here, pal. It's whitewash. My son likes to jam out on the guitar, and I had to.
I miss messing up on the writing, and being quarantined for the past 3 months. We just couldn't get everything in here like we wanted to. But listen, we're all healthy, and I'm excited to. Susan, I'm excited to see you. I haven't seen you in forever.
I know. I'm happy to see you, and you're a little fuzzier than the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it got really big, kind of like a lumberjack, but I took it down some just so I wouldn't scare my daughter.
Your daughter is adorable. You have a daughter and two sons, right?
Yeah, my daughter's 6 years old. Her name's Sam. She's like the boss. And then I have a 10-year-old son, Miles, who has the longest hair ever. He kind of looks like Aquaman. His name, Jason, whatever, I forget his name.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah. And then and I have a 20-year-old son who's he's great also.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I tell you what, man, it's really cool. I know you just had moved into this new house, and the whole COVID thing hit, and it's just really hard, troubling times. But I everything I know about you, there's just a certain authenticity that I've always appreciated about you, and just the commitment you have for your children. It's just unparalleled, and it really is. It's such an awesome thing to see, and I'm just really curious as to what it is. Why it is you think you are so. You are so devoted to your family, to your children. You one time shared a story with me about maybe the example that your grandfather had set, And I mean, I just want you to dive in and just kind of take it to wherever you just want to talk about that experience and your time as a father.
Yeah, no, sure. It's funny. I'm a talker. Suze could tell. She'll tell you. She likes my little jokes when I went inside my stories. But I grew up. It's a weird situation, but super blessed and weird in a way where I had 4 parents. I had a stepmother and a stepfather who loved me like I was their own. I had a grandmother on my father's side who was, racist, right? She didn't like black people. She's Sicilian native. And my mother's mother was from Saluda, South Carolina. So she was one of those generations where she picked cotton. So, there was a side that didn't like whites and there was a side that didn't like blacks. And I had uncles who were Muslims and I had Baptists and Christians. It was just a crazy mix of a reality show. So, but one thing I think they all had in common is they loved me and they loved my cousins and brothers and sisters. So I guess the older I got, not just understanding the love that they have for me, but just understanding that everybody's different. And once you're on that island, our island within inside our community of our family, once you're stuck with that island, differences we can, it's okay to have differences, but as long as we love and respect each other, right, and try to understand each other. So me growing up, I had an amazing stepfather who passed away my first year in MBA, who he's the reason why I'm successful and instilling me so much as being a family man. And Michael Keaton came out with this movie. I was a little kid, and it was called Mr. Mom, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I wanted to be that, and I wanted to be a businessman at the same time. And I believe it or not, I wasn't even thinking about playing basketball. I picked up a basketball at 13, going on 14. I was a boxer and a football player. So So
I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, it's interesting what you were saying a minute ago about your family. My family is sort of like that too. I've got like the Sicilians and the Jews, right?
Yeah,
and they just all think of me as one of them, whichever side I'm on. I'm like,
exactly.
And they say whatever they want. That's like not very nice about the other. And it's like, hello, like, I'm half Italian, I'm half Jewish, like, hello. But at the end of the day, then they'll be like, oh, I'm only kidding. I don't mean anything by it, And I got like my Puerto Rican stepbrother and my Korean sister-in-law. And it's like, it's like everybody's just got to like do their thing and get along.
It's a regular Benetton commercial.
That's what I always said, right?
Yeah. So my grandmother, when I was younger, my grandmother would say, "You better not get any darker" on my father's side. On the other side, it's just it was again, but you got to think about it, right? They were older and set in their certain ways, but they loved each other. They literally loved each other. And my grandmother, and my grandmother, my father's mother, she would help raise me with my mother. And my mother's, she's dark, And but yeah, so I think for my own self, and I was telling Suze this when I was when we talk. When I was younger, it's not that I couldn't read well, but I had difficulty reading. So what I did really well was listen to people, and listening to not just with their words, but more of their actions and emotions. And I became, maybe I was already that, but very empathic, intuitive individual where I can see things before they happen, or I can see the person's true self. And what I learned from not just that and knowing that was that it's not personal, right? Some people are fighting their own battles inside themselves. And now what I have to do is try to figure out a way inside their heart just to see what I can do to ease their pain while they're walking in this journey. So for my kids, I just give them as much as I can, right? And I think I start off with more so not just the love, but the discipline and just the understanding of like, you have to commit, right? I need you to commit, whether it's with your family, your husband, your wife. I need you to commit. And once you commit, fall in love with the process, right? So when you fall in love with the process, it's not so much as at the end of it, right? Because you can win a championship and that only lasts for 15 minutes, right? It's the confetti, it's this, it's that. And then before you know it, you're so mentally exhausted, you go to sleep and you have a trophy. But what you're really fighting for again is to repeat it. So what are you repeating? Are you repeating the 15 minutes that you held up the trophy, or are you repeating the process that it takes you to get to the trophy? And that's what I kind of like more so fall in love with is the process.
I love that so much I love that. That like for me resonates so much. It's been such a journey, like from the idea of writing Better Part. I said like, I'm getting Gwyneth Paltrow's endorsement on the cover of like the internationally renowned book I'm going to write. And my husband's like, go to sleep, Gabrielle. And I'm like, those are fighting words. And like literally, you know, the process of like, you know, writing the book, getting the agent, getting the HarperCollins, getting Gwyneth's endorsement, getting it into People magazine, you know, one thing after another. The process is so much fun. And of course you have like your good days and your bad. And that's when I call Susan 50 times. But, you know, but like the fact of the matter is like, you know, as a kid, I think I kind of had to learn that. My father used to always say to me, darling, life is a journey. It is not a destination. And I'd be like, get out of my way. I'm going somewhere. But, you know, constant learning process.
So that's why Susan's not answering me, because you're calling her. We need to cut it out.
Maybe we can do like a group call. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So for me, you know, listen, I can't really explain it. My love for not just being a father, but a brother to my younger siblings, a friend to my friends. I was last week when a week and a half ago when the whole George Floyd situation happened. I was one removed from him, and Stephen Jackson, who's kind of taken that, you know, forefront and being responsible not only to George's daughter, but to a lot of people that are out there that's fighting a good fight. You know, he called me and we talked about it, and I cried, and I didn't cry for myself because I don't think really people understand, you know, the situation I'm about to say, but I'm a very privileged person. Okay. So, you know, we throw around the word white privilege, we throw around the word this, we throw around the word that, but I can say for myself, I'm privileged. That means if a cop stops me, I can show my name, I can do X, Y, and Z, I can pay to get out, I can do a lot of different things because economically I'm stronger than a lot of other people. So there's a lot of different things that go on when it comes to these things. And when I cried, I wasn't crying for myself. I was crying for people like Mike. I was crying for people like Susie. I was crying for my best friend Susie, who's Jewish in New York, that people who don't have a racist bone in their body, but yet there's people on the other side, whatever side it is, that's going to look at you a certain way, right? Because they think you are, or they think your ideology is totally different from theirs. So, you know, that's what scares me. And then having a daughter and then godsons who are 21 years old, who's salt of the earth, good men, young men, and my son who's 20. So I cry for people like that because I know the world is very evil. It's a lot of evil things that go on, but it's a lot of happiness as well. So, you know, when I guess the older I get, and I said this on IG, the older I get, the more vulnerable I get because of my love. It gets so deep, and I cry in movies now, and I don't even know what I'm doing, you know. But you know,
I cry every time a Beatles song comes on. I don't even know what's the matter with me. Like my kids are like, I'm like, go away. I'm like, everything is so tough. I find so many things touching.
Oh,
it's
God.
like, it's horrible. I think it's like,
I don't even know what it is for me. I swear. It's just like a drop of a dime crying. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? Can you please stop this? Right. So I was never an emotional guy. I was always like a tough one, you know, always had the answers for everybody else and things like that. But then it came to a point where I needed Susan and I needed, you know, I called Mike a year or something ago just to kind of talk me off the ledge of like, you know, what should I do? I mean, I'll usually have all the answers. I don't even know what the heck to do right now.
You know what the thing is though? Like, and this is a good reminder for anyone watching. Like, we're a lot of us are really, really, really good with other people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I always say this, like listening to you, I'm like, oh my God, he sounds like me. Like I'm always saying, like, you know, maybe because I grew up in the way I did, I changed houses every day between my parents. I had the Jewish mother, the Italian Catholic father, and like, just like I feel like I was very good at reading people's situations and fitting into all different situations. But when it comes to your own life, sometimes it's hard to take that step back that you need to do, even though, you know, if your friend came to you, if a client came to you, if a colleague came to you, we have the answers, we have the wisdom. But even if you are an authority in your field, even if you're like the most able person, still sometimes it's difficult to have the same reflective abilities. And it's really important to have the vulnerability. We had a guest on a week ago who's talking about, you know, being really open. It's really hard to be open for a lot of people. And, you know, I think it's amazing, Cuttino, that you were able to be open and give a person of your stature, ability, and platform and influence that, you know, that you're willing to come and talk about, oh, I needed help. You know, people need to be given permission to ask for that help, because help is there. And that's what we're all here for, really, is to help each other.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, you hit it perfect. Like for me, when you're younger and you're going through this in teenage, and when you're young in your 20s, I don't think you really know how to articulate it without being vulnerable. And when you're a teenager and you're in your 20s, vulnerability is something that you don't feel like having, because there's so many different monsters inside your head, right? You feel weak, you feel like you're going to be made fun of, blah, 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 blah. But then when I guess you get old and decrepit and gray hair like myself, right, you don't really care. You know, you'll wear black socks to Ralph's, you know what I mean? So,
I got Birkenstocks on my socks right now.
Yeah.
Just, you know?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Flip-flop.
I do too.
Beat up shirt you had on from yesterday. You don't really care. It's like, you know, listen, I just want everybody to love each other. I want to make sure that my children, you know, listen, it's like the game of Monopoly, right? Everybody gets $200. You know, I'm just trying to give my kids at least $400, but with the understanding of how to spend it. And then the spending is not so much money, but it's more so, you know, you're the way of life, right? Your emotional IQ. How do you manage that part? And I truly believe in trying to enhance my children's, and I talked to Susan about this, and I might enhance my children's emotional IQ, just to make not so much focus so much on yourself, but, you know, because throughout the course of your life, you're going to learn who you are, right? Every person you meet, every place you go to, you're becoming a better version, because what you're doing is you're putting yourself out there in an uncomfortable situation so that you can become comfortable, right? So, and I say this all the time to, you know, when I'm talking to young guys that are playing, or young girls that are playing the sport, at a young age, don't run from being uncomfortable. Put yourself in that position now. So when you get 20, 30, 40, you're saying to yourself, you know what? It's uncomfortable, but guess what? I'm comfortable. I understand a lot of this, what's going on.
And I'm going to say, even when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, keep putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, because otherwise life gets boring.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're yoga. Unless you're yoga, right? Unless it's yoga, because I can't do yoga right now.
Oh, yeah, well. You know, Cuttino,
I
one
think
of
it's
the
going to
things...
remind everybody. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, one of the things I've gotten to, this happened to us last week too, sorry. I just, one of the things I've gotten to know about you is that you are very cerebral in how you approach your family and caring for others. And I also know you are the core that holds, and the glue and the security, emotionally, and emotional, you know, content for everyone, for you. And as things, you know, in the world with quarantine and everything that's happening now, and as emotional content has been going up for people, is that causing, you know, for you being the emotional calm in the storm for everyone, do you have an outlet? How do you, you know, manage to protect or care for yourself in that, as you're caring for everyone else?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, okay, so you know how people are, they search for negativity. Okay, it's just what's in them. That mate, that person, that friend, whoever it is, can be the most positive person in the world. But because you were conditioned at a very young age to always look forward to negativity in life, being the pessimist that you are, whoever you are, you find your way in there. For me, I think what I've learned is that growing up, there were tough times, but I'm super lucky, right? So when there's situations like this, and I'm gonna get to it, the situations like this is, there are tough moments and there are tough situations. But for me, what I think about is that coach that everybody else thinks, that don't, close it up. Thank you. The coach that thinks that everybody else is, you know, mean, or the coach, you know, the kids that this coach, whatever, opposite, right? Me, I say, you know what? This is only a moment. If you hustle, if you work hard, I don't know no coach, my football coach, boxing, basketball, I know no coach that if you are doing what you're supposed to do and you're working hard, sooner or later you're going to break them. And that's the same way when it comes to energy, bad energy. Sooner or later, if you stay consistent, you will break it, right? So it's just about really falling in love with what you truly believe as the Bible. And mine is working hard, working through it, like letting it go. And yeah, you need people, the Susans of the world, Mikes of the world, Gab, you, whoever. We need these type of people to kind of like say that you're not by yourself. Just keep doing what you're doing, and everything will, fall into place. It's like that coach or like that assistant coach. Because see, the head coach is not like the assistant coach. If the head coach is, mean, the assistant coach is kind of, it's okay, come on, you okay. And then that captain of the team's like, yo, bro, listen, I'm doing it. You got to do it. Come on, we're going to be okay. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You need those type of people in your life. And that's why I tell my daughter, she loves hearts, so she draws hearts. She's an artist, actually. So, if the heart's shaped like this, right, truly when you go and you really as a surgeon or whoever, you go and look at the heart, the true heart is like this. It's all. But when you bring them two together, right, it becomes the heart that we see like that. Right? So why are those two together? Because we need each other. When people really start understanding that we need each other, and that's the only way this heart that we see looks like that, is because two people need to be helping each other, whether it's up and down. I think we become better as a society.
Totally. And what you just said about like, you can break through or you can break it. Like I used to make it my personal mission. If I meet like a grouchy person, like I'm thinking back like 100 years ago when I was in law school, there were these professors who were just very grumbly. And I would just like, I'm breaking this guy and you're this woman. And I'd always say, good morning. How are you? And like by the end of the year, I'm like, everyone smiles and says, good morning, Gabrielle. And I'm like, I did it. I know that. I like feeling like that. Like,
nobody can turn down Gabrielle.
Like, do not ignore me. It's not going to work.
I won't let you. I won't let you.
But I also think it's about like spreading a little bit of sunshine, not to be corny, but like there's a lot of people who are feeling energetically depleted. And if you have the energy in you to like share a little bit of positivity, you don't have to go crazy out of your way, but just give them a little lift in a way. It will build upon itself. And, and if you're sorry, go ahead, Cuttino.
No. What you're saying is right, because see, again, we go back to our childhood. In our childhood, there's things that last for weeks, months, years. So if my parents are a certain way that they don't know they are, for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, we're practicing the same exact thing: behavior, intimacy, anything you can name. We see that for so many years, and then you become a teenager. And your relationships as a teenager are only predicated on what happened before then. Whether you like this or whether you don't like that, or whether the mom and dad did this, whatever your environment is. So, in saying that professor that's grumpy or this person that's like this, they're just waiting for you to not be consistent. So if you're nice on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday when you go to school, when you're in college, right? Because it's not every day. Or your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're saying, okay, well, I don't get that a lot, so I don't really have to commit myself emotionally to this person. I can just be the grump that I am because that's what I'm used to. Opposed to, now, if I got you all the time and for a whole year straight, Gab is being like this, Cuttino's being like this, Mike or Susan's being like this, God dang it, I can't keep being mean to this person. And sooner or later, right, maybe it's not with everybody, but with you, they're like, hey, how you doing, right?
It gives them 1 minute, like a second. That gives them that little pause, like, I felt like okay for that minute. Like, imagine being in their grouchy head. Imagine being that person. So I don't know. I think, and I think that goes a long way when you're in a high conflict situation. No matter what's coming at you, you be you in a good way. You don't go into it. You're Velcro. You are like strong and solid. You know your mind. You know you're doing the right thing, and to have the confidence to know that you can move yourself and your family forward in a positive way is like best.
Yeah, for sure. I always go through that. I've always been the captain of every team. I'm the favorite in the family.
Siblings, be advised.
I mean, the funny thing is, it's like I've always been the person where I've given up my seat, or I'm making sure when they come in with groceries, I'm going to do that. You need to go do something. I do that. Like I don't know why I'm wired and been like that my whole life. My daughter's like that. It's literally like a servant, just like serves people, right? And once people's emotions, once people's journeys to be a lot easier than what they are at the moment.
Right.
Well, it's like Michelle Obama, right? When they go low, we go high. I know you live very much by that principle. I've seen you in situations where you could have chosen to go one way the way that was being presented to you, or the force that you were being met with, and instead you've chosen a high road in every instance I've known you, and that is how you look at life. And I think that is one of the reasons, I would assume, has something to do with your great success. Yes, you're a phenomenal athlete, and all of the things that come with that, but that mental strength and strength of will have propelled you well beyond what just a person with athletic ability could do. And you've accomplished so much more. So, which makes it, fascinating to be whenever you and I talk. The other thing people probably don't know, if I can mention, you have a psychology degree.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, here we have
and communication,
which kind of sets us all up here. But, I have heard you pop out with phrases that, 'cause I talk to therapists all the time. You know, as much as many of them do. You're right on top of it. And that's got to help you in dealing with a lot of the life situations that are coming up at the moment.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you think about it, right? I think what racism is, and they call privileges and all these different types of, phrases that are out there to ignite the people that are weak. What it is like you said, once you understand certain terminologies, once you understand the origin of those terminologies, then you can take your emotions out of them, and then you can identify them better and faster. So, if I don't understand things, that is more so fear, especially when someone's speaking to me about it. One is I am more so embarrassed, right? Two is it's like, well, why don't I know that one, right? So it's like so many different things that's going on in your head as an individual when you don't have the knowledge of whatever it is. So for me, what I try to do is I try to equip myself with as much knowledge as I can, so I can have a more rational, logical answer, right? I don't want to be just a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist. I want to be a theologist, right? I want to be able to understand everything, so then I can take a little piece from everywhere and I can form the best individual person of me, right? I can't tell you that Mercedes-Benz is the best car if I've never driven every other car.
You better get all the cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
You better buy them all.
Each of them. I said, you better get all of them. Let me know.
You're like a knowledge junkie.
Yeah, crazy. I'm I'm like,
yeah, well, you are.
Up in the middle of the night, I'm like a mad scientist. I got loose leaf sheets and books all over this place. I can't even put them all together. It's crazy.
No, well, and you're a pretty voracious reader. I do know that. So I always tell people they should read this book or read that book. Cuttino actually does it. He like reads it, and then he starts like flipping through the pages and quoting it back to me. And I was like, oh, I forgot that line, But he's that's how we learn. That's
I think it's the most, when I was younger, it wasn't the most fun for me because I'm very competitive, and learning this the older I got was when I know another kid, and it's not so much as my intelligence at that time, it's just that my surroundings, right? So my mom was the only college graduate, and then I was the second one of my, from my whether it's my siblings or my cousins or whatever. So just reading a book and understanding different types of situations that are out there, that's not something that we talked about in our family growing up, because my grandmother was from South Carolina, and then, my grandfather was a trash truck man, and my dad, he didn't graduate from high school. So it was, you can only teach what you know. You can't really teach what you don't know. So, I've always wanted to be wise. And I forgot, and I didn't forget, but I didn't know that being wise and having wisdom comes with a lot of pain first before you, are able to articulate that to another individual as simple as you can. And I think what I always wanted to do was be able to, I guess, basically explain it, whatever it is, like they're for, because that's how I wanted to explain it to me at a very young age, because I always was competitive with this kid got this, or he was smarter than this. He got 100, I only got a 72. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. It was like that, but it wasn't so much as, like I said before, it wasn't so much of me just not being smart enough. It was just my environment and learning what my skill sets were. You know, and you know, so for me, what I do with a lot of my children is I try to introduce them to as much as possible so they can understand what their strongest skill set is.
It's brilliant. Right? I mean, that's what kids need.
You know, what kind of advice do you give? You know, unfortunately, when you look at the statistics in our community, men, it's getting better actually, but a lot of men do not prioritize fatherhood, especially historically speaking. But I would say increasingly, well, it's still there, especially within the African American community. I mean, you seem to have come from just pretty darn good stock when it comes to the culture kind of created by your family and the involvement. And I'm just curious as to what kind of advice do you give them? Because I'm sure a lot of what has put you up, I mean, you were obviously born as just a physical specimen of just so athletically, you were just superior, but that definitely came with a good family. And how much do you attribute to that? And what kind of advice do you give others?
Well, I mean, listen, I was blessed where Joe Louis, the former boxer, military vet, he's our distant cousin. John Mobley, who's linebacker for the Denver Broncos, played with John Elway, and wow. That's my cousin. Then it's myself. So we have those genes in us, and we have some scholars in us as well. So, I think the advice I just would give, and what I give to a lot of people, is like, listen, I don't want to control you or your thoughts. All I want to do is try to hold you, like I do myself, accountable for whatever you do, and to be able to finish it. So whatever it is that you start with, right, and that starts at a very young age. So it goes back to me saying the most uncomfortable situation, whether it's a family talking about racism, or whether it's you getting cut from basketball, football, baseball team. These things are very uncomfortable because you understand the discomfort, whether it's whatever, right? Inequality or a crush that didn't speak to you. You'll start to understand those things the more you speak about them. So, I think what we have to understand, one is when it comes to a lot of things like that, one is it's not personal, but two is you have to stay dedicated to yourself, right, and improving yourself. And every family or every person has different situations, right? I was blessed with 4 parents, right? They all were different. My mom's the hardest of all of them because she just strived for you to be like, she wants you to be like the president. That's just who she is.
That's what my kids would say. That's who I am. That's what my kids would say. In fact, we had a meeting with one of my kids' teachers today, and I was like, I think he's really struggling with writing. And they were like, Gabrielle, they were like, your expectations, like, they were basically like, don't be an elementary school teacher. I'm like, I'm not.
Calm down, woman.
And then I had a learning curve, more so growing up. But true story. I was on my first year was hard for me to focus in college, so they had put me on Ritalin, 2 pills, and I went from 2 pills to about 4 to 6 pills, and wow. It was too much. It was too much for me, and I was draining my energy and who I was. So I went. The reason why I took psychology and along with communications, I went to my professor, and we kind of spoke about it. She was a counselor as well. And she knew everything about me, just by looking at me and understanding my behavior and my emotional IQ, the whole thing. And she said, you don't need this. She says, you're really highly intelligent. You just got to be able to understand what's your niche, right? Like what do you, and then basketball is the same way. It's like Michael Jordan used to tell me my rookie year, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley said my rookie year. It's like, you can have all these moves you want, but when the game is on the line, what's your go-to? Right? So in academics, what's your go-to? Right? And in your life, what's your go-to? I want my go-to to be hard work, right? I want my go-to to be, and then through hard work, all those other things will come about, right? So, for a lot of different fathers that are out there, I think they get a bad rep. And going back to Mike, what you were saying is a lot of people give up fast, right? So it's like kind of like what Gab was saying. If that mother or whoever these individuals are making it hard for him to see his children, to do this, to do that, he may not be mentally as strong as I am, right? He's a person that's saying, you know what, I tried for 2 weeks, yes. She's killing me. it made that third week she probably could have gave in. But because we were born in these different types of ideologies and shortage of whether you are a fully committed, disciplined individual or not, that can deter you from getting to the pros. That can deter you from going to college, you graduated from college, to getting a job. These things can deter you. So, when these guys are saying, she's crazy, I'll just wait till my kid gets older and I'll see him. That's worse than like fighting at a very young age, because sooner or later, that consistency that your child's seeing you fight for them and loving you and kissing you, whether you see them 2 or 3 days or twice a week, it adds up. But if you don't see them and you don't fight, now it's going to be it's harder to climb out of that hole.
The thing is, there's like resilience is something that's like hard to learn, right? Like I think of resilience, I say that's like the ability to bounce back, right? So there's like a set of people who, like, I feel like I'm naturally pretty resilient. Like, I was born like that, but like you can also develop the muscle, right? Like I'm pretty organized with paper, right? So it's like hard for me to be organized with paper. Somebody else might be really good with paper, but like, they have to go to court twice and they're like, that's it, I'm finished. But like, I think recognizing that like you can grow your ability to bounce back just by like staying in that game, I think to Cuttino's point, what you just said is so important. I just want to like highlight it, which is to say that, just keep being there, because even if you don't win, you're winning, because the kid sees that you're trying to see them. They see that you're not giving up. They see the persistence and the perseverance, and read the situation. Sometimes maybe it's making it worse, but stick with it as long and as positively as you can. Even when it's high conflict, you can still make a way to have a path forward, right?
Yeah.
And that just goes back to the brilliant, right? That just goes back to the uncomfortable state. When we get out of these uncomfortable states, whether you are waving a Confederate flag or whether you yelling at this woman or whether you doing this to this man, if you get out of these uncomfortable states, because all this black, white, this, that, it's all an illusion. It's been planted and created. So now that's all you know, right? If I point at something, I tell people all the time, and this is one of my geeky books that, the New Earth, Susan, it's like, Eckhart Tolle, he speaks about, we're so programmed that if I tell you guys, listen, you see that over there? And you're saying what? But it's 5 objects. And I say, you see that over there? And it's just, what, Cuttino? That right there. Well, what right there? What the cup on it, and there's a book. And it's a computer on it. What? Oh, the table. Yeah. See, you know it as a table. Because, see, when you know things as something, that's the only way you can identify it, right? But if you didn't know what it was, you just the meaning behind it means nothing. It means nothing to you if you don't know what it is. But that's why we're programmed from racism to this, to privilege, to this, blah, blah. And what we do is it gets convoluted. It's all in here, right? It's the red pill, the blue pill, all these different things that go on. And it's like, wow, it's too much information. Let me just stick to the easy side. Okay, I don't like blacks. Oh, okay, I don't like women. Okay, I'm a like you just stick to those things because it's easy.
Something to glom onto it.
Right. Something, because you have to listen, you have to have some type of what do you call it?
Like
a group. A group. Yeah, you have to have a group.
Yeah.
Group, right? The kid that is from the hood and he, his family's not there. He starts to join a gang. Whether the gang's beating him up and he is doing bad stuff, the point is he's a part of something. People are afraid to be alone. That's the heart. They're afraid to be alone. Right? They need each other, but they act like they don't. Right? So that's where all this confusion comes in at.
When are you running for office?
I know, right? He seriously should.
Amazing. Like,
he
literally,
should.
You really should.
You really should. We think he should run for office.
You're gonna run for office. No, don't laugh.
We're not.
No, really. Like, I think
we need you.
No, I mean, he's really communicative, and
You're really smart. You're really relatable. Like, when this is done, we got to talk about that, because I think that might be V3.
Meet your new campaign manager.
No. I mean, talk to Susan when I get an idea in my head, right, Susan?
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm telling you,
there's nothing more
be
motivating.
ready to move to Washington.
I'd rather go around and listen. We can talk about motivational speaking to keep people up, but running for office is a tricky business right there. That's
True.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Although, you could do good. Anyway, okay. That's off topic.
Yeah.
Motivational speaking, though, not out of your wheelhouse.
Not
That's
out
for
of
sure.
squarely
At all.
in your wheelhouse.
I'm just an optimist, right? And a lot of things that I have my tough days when it comes to certain stuff, but that's that's how it's like the wind blowing.
Everybody does.
Right.
It's called you're a human being.
Right.
I know.
And then she talks me off the ledge, so I'm good. Yeah, and then Mike, he's always positive, right? And
we try, man. We commiserate with one another every once in a while. We bring it together.
Yeah, two pieces, right?
Yeah, we're very relatable. We have good conversations. I really drive a lot of. You know what? I can be really going through some tough things. I'll jump on the phone with Cuttino, and he gets it. He gets me, and then we're good. Like I can move on. I've recharged the battery and keep going. So always appreciated that about him.
Well, you're two dads that have a lot in common. You, you're both the center of your children's worlds in many, many ways. You're very, very, very involved in your children's lives. And you're their support and their emotional calm in sometimes what is a storm in life. And so, you are two dads who are doing so much right, that I think it's wonderful that you're both talking about it, because it's especially for dads who are living separately at times from their children, or when children are in two households, it's a scary world to be in. And you two navigate it with all its difficulties that any two household parenting situation will have, but you both navigate it beautifully. And your children are all thriving and happy and wonderful kids. So they're a testament to both of you as well.
Well, thanks, Susan. You. Has anybody seen just how cute Cuttino's kids are? His little daughter.
See a picture. See a picture.
She's so cute.
I have that one on my phone. Can I show it?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
I just don't know how do I get them on my wait,
don't share your screen in case.
Aren't they adorable?
He's so cute.
So cute. Aren't they adorable? Oh my God, those smiles.
No, and they absolutely love him. There's no better compliment than to have earned that, that sort of affection.
Let me see if I can share this one. Let me see if I can share this one on here, and it'll go on my computer, I think, and I think I can share it to you guys. But yeah, they're funny. My daughter, she's a funny one. Hold on a second. I think
a lot of personality, like her dad, maybe.
They're going to be tall. I'll tell you that. Cuttino's like 6'5", man. That's good.
I know.
How old are your kids now?
My kids, 10 and 6. 10 and 6. Okay.
That's nice. Nice.
Share. How do you share?
Children. I don't know if we can share on this platform.
I think you have to do there's a plugin you'd have to download to be able to share.
Yeah.
It's not like Zoom.
Yeah, it's not like Zoom. We're on Facebook Live, so I think it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, but they are absolutely adorable kids. And Michael posts pictures of both his beautiful children as well. So we have
my screensaver of my daughter. You can't really. Oh no, you can't see it.
Yeah. There we go.
There she is.
Got to turn it back on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's
you got it.
Cute. Yeah, she's
super
adorable.
cute.
Isn't she?
She's beautiful little thing, man. She
really is.
Girl. Yeah.
Yeah, she's funny. The boy, he looks literally just like the guy Jason Aquaman. He looks just like him. It's crazy. His hair's all the way down. This kid's unbelievable.
That's Khal Drogo.
It's ridiculous. This dude's ridiculous. But they're fun. My 20-year-old's fun. My godsons are great. Listen. You go through situations, and me being in my 40s, I think about my life, and I say, wow, you had 4 parents. Everybody loved you. You were a star at doing this. You had your little academic problems and football, basketball problems. You broke your arm. You did this. You did that. but like your life right now, how it was all the way into, like, I wouldn't change anything because it made me, one, who I am, and two, it's like, sometimes what we have to understand is, and to the viewers that are going to be out there listening, you got to be very careful of what you wish for, because it can come in so many different ways that it's something you asked for, but right, not exactly detailed like you would think, right? So, the white picket fence and the dog, or this person is that. It's like you have to, when you pray, when you really manifest, when you really talk to the universe, you have to really understand that, like, as detailed as possible, get there. Once you get there, I think the universe will listen. And again, it's not going to just give it to you. You got to work towards it, but just keep reminding yourself that you want those goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many people fall short of their goals, and I think that's because most things fail because people give up. And resilience, you both tapped on that earlier, and I think that's probably the most important gift you can give your children, is how to overcome adversity when it presents itself in life. And so you're definitely a great example of somebody who's been resilient, because anybody who makes it to that level, I mean, you can be, God-given ability, this sort of thing, but honestly, it's never going to be enough to have made it to the levels that you have. And I think that you also manifest that same spirit in your life as a father. I mean, I've always been blown away by just how man, I tell you, you're so good about, like, you may just want to say it. I'll just let you go run with it. I mean, when something escalates out of nowhere, all of a sudden there's basically a fire going on between you and your co-parent. So, like, you're always good about shielding your children from that. And I don't know, like, maybe you want to talk about what's something you do. What advice can you give a father or mother out there how do you deal with those kind of fires?
Well, I relate everything to basketball, right? So when I do my speaking and things like that, sometimes when the games that you are about to encounter, this team is very aggressive. Mm-hmm. Knowing that team is aggressive, what you need to do is you need to start to lift, right? Lifting and educating yourself, right? Because guess what? They're going to start beating you up. So you have to be mentally strong enough to take the pounding. So that now when it happens, that uncomfortable situations happen, your kids are peeking at you from the corner of their eyes like, what's he going to do, right? I'm already conditioned. I'm comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. I'm okay, right?
So you don't even show it. You don't even show any signs. Your kids can't feel what's going on with you. I think that's that's the issue I struggle with, is that when something's bothering me, I mean, it's really hard to completely turn it off. I mean, you try really hard, but people can always kind of get a read on me. I think that something's off. Like, again, I always use the term, I can't be the best version of myself when going through those kind of conflicts, and because I don't know, but I think it's awesome.
Another thing too is, Mike, what I do is I write a lot of stuff down.
Yeah.
So I might have like 15 curse words in there, right?
Downloading.
You get it out, huh? So that's the kind of lifting you're saying. For you, writing things down, that's a form of lifting.
Well, yeah, listen, you write them down, you video them, as far as, and then after you finish, you let it out, you erase it, and it's gone, right? Because what you did is you lashed it out, right?
Yeah.
Again, there's no, like I was saying to people the other day, I do Fox Radio on Saturdays from 10 to 1, we were just speaking, me and my co-host were speaking about a lot of these different things, and a lot of people were very turned off about the looters and the rioters. And, and speaking to a lot of different friends of mine, there is no blueprint on how mad you should get, right? There's no blueprint on, protesting. There's no blueprint on rioting, looting, right? There's no blueprint, but it is a blueprint on how to conduct yourself as a police officer. When you are upset with the significant other or co-parent or whatever it is, there's no blueprint on how you should conduct it. But if there is a way, there's different types of tools that you can do that may work for you or not, right? Like, so for me, it's writing stuff down and letting it go. It's videoing it, voice videoing it, and then erasing it. It's just different things like that I use. Or, when you see your kids and you're upset, you kiss them, you hug them. Like, that's just the fastest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because that energy right there, one, for me, it makes me safe, makes me feel safe. And two is it makes them feel safe because now they understand, that we're in this together, whatever it is, right? Because I don't never want my kids to, hate their mother or hate someone else, even though I may at that moment have just like anger in me. But again, it's just like, it's a basketball game, man. And it's the Detroit Pistons in 89, 90. They're going to beat you up, right? And if you like Michael Jordan, not lifting those weights every single day, just ready for it to happen, we become victims, right? We understand that we know it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. We didn't prepare ourselves for it. And now we're blaming everybody else to react in a certain way when we know this has already been, right? If that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah.
I see Bill Lambier running down the court at me.
Oh, that's my guy. I love Bill.
I used to babysit for him.
Oh, my
God.
Funny. Bill's my guy.
Yeah.
Me and Rick, I always go up to Rick and I grab him around his neck and give him a kiss. He's like, "Oh, I hate you. Stop touching me." So funny.
One thing I try to live by is I set a bar and I say, any day that goes by that it's a good day for my kids, I just say that's a good day for me. And if I have to remind myself of that sometimes, because I just say, are they happy? Are they smiling? Are they enjoying their time today? And if that's the case, then look, all else is good. Right. And I think that's just a good line to have, because it is hard, especially right now. Money's tight for people. Everyone's living on top of each other right now. Things are probably heating up for a lot of families, and just trying to get perspective is important.
Right.
I had one client who said to me, back with a really high conflict case and a lot of difficulty with her ex, and she said, she did very well. She really was much like maybe the two of you. She was able to manage it. And I asked her once how she did it. And she said, I had to decide that I love my children more than I dislike dealing with their other parent. And she really lived it. And I know how hard it is. It is very, very hard, but I think that's beautiful what you just said, Michael. If your kids are having a good day, then as a parent, you've
had a good day.
You're there.
Yeah, totally get it. Cuttino, you know what, man? I tell you, we need to do more. Well, we're about running out of time. Do you have any good final thoughts that you'd want to share? Really, anywhere. Is anything you're going to come up with is going to be thought-provoking?
I don't have nothing off the top of my head. I think this, when it comes to men and women that are out there fighting a good fight, to make sure their kids become the best version of themselves. They always say you don't start where your parents started, you start where your parents finished. I think for me, and I use this not only in for inequality, equal rights and equal pay for women, all these different types of things that that's very close and heavy to my heart. I say all the time, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm a humanist. And if that is if they're ready for me to stand for that, I'm all for it. Because I know that's not a game, that's true heart. But I think when you're dealing with a lot of these different things in life, man, to everybody, it's called controlled aggression. As long as you control it, it's not a bad thing to be aggressive, as long as you love it, right? And then I love people. I'm a humanist, and I just want what's best for not only myself and my kids, but everybody else out there.
And Mobley 2020, Gabrielle will be right on it. Don't worry.
Oh my God, all over you.
She'll be all over it. One last quick question, Cuttino.
Yeah.
If you could, somebody asked me this the other day in a podcast. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? I mean, we already know you're basically a superpower.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I know, right? He's like, what do you think this is?
No, usually I always ask that.
Do you?
Yes, I always, and it's to read minds.
Read minds.
Oh, really?
Oh,
would
man.
you?
I
would not.
There's some I wouldn't want to know.
Yeah.
Well, be careful what you wish for, Cuttino.
Yeah,
be careful.
I'm pretty good at it now. So, yeah.
Well, that's true as well. You are pretty good at it now. That psych degree.
So reading minds for me is just finding out the insecurities before they even come out, right? So then I can be able to help them beforehand. It's not so much as all the evil stuff that goes on. I'm just talking more so about helping people before they damage themselves, kind of thing, right? Because listen, I'm a fixer. I've got into relationships and situations where I've been a fixer, and I can't stop being who I am. I always tell people I'm a friend of you, even if you're not a friend to me. I don't need you to be a friend to me for me to love you as a person, as a human being. So, me reading minds and helping people when they're in their mind, because a lot of people are more so in their mind than they are outspoken.
How about you can read emotions instead of all their thoughts?
Well, he can definitely do that already.
That's
including his own, which is the talent.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, totally is. Well, Cuttino, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We're glad Cuttino Mobley is in the world. I'll tell you, you're a great person.
Anytime. Seriously, I'm always here.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and of course Cuttino and my panelists. And we'll be back here next week for another episode of Co-Parenting Simplified: The Fayr Way. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.